They said the sun was eternal, that it would burn bright for another 5 billion years, that it was the constant, the anchor of our existence. They were wrong. The sun screamed on a Tuesday. It began with a flicker, a stutter in sunlight that no one noticed at first. The solar observatories in Chile and space-based satellites registered anomalies, small tremors in the magnetic field, the kind that made astrophysicists raise an eyebrow but not sound alarms, until the light dimmed, slightly, imperceptibly, but it was there. Then came the neutrino burst. 37 seconds later, every sensor in the solar system screamed in unison. And then came silence, a strange, dead silence across all radio bands. Solar static gone, like the sun itself had stopped breathing. Dr. Lena Voss had been in the subterranean lab beneath Geneva, working with her team on fusion containment when the first rail warning came through. A priority alert from NASA, ESA, CNSA, all of them. She remembered looking at the data and going cold. The core of the sun had destabilized. Something had detonated deep inside it. Something artificial. Someone did this, she whispered. The explosion wasn't visible at first. The sun's surface retained its shape for nearly an hour. But beneath that facade, the heart of our star was breaking. And when it finally ruptured, when the photosphere peeled back and a jet of fusion plasma burst out like blood from a cosmic wound, the world watched it live. On every screen, in every language, humanity saw the impossible, a dying sun. Global collapse. The governments fell within weeks, not because of war or infighting, but because the earth began to freeze. The sun, once the life giver, dimmed by 22% in the first month. Crops failed in Africa. Solar arrays became useless. Winter stormed across the equator. Global temperatures dropped 6 degrees Celsius in a matter of weeks. Panic gave way to desperation. Cities became graveyards. Lena and what remained of her team were relocated to Sanctuary 1, a former particle physics lab beneath the Ural Mountains, converted into a command and survival hub for scientists and defense personnel. As society broke, the brightest minds were herded underground, given one mission: figure out what happened and find a way to fight back. First contact. It came on day 73. A message broadcast across every surviving frequency, translated automatically by technology we did not yet possess. The message was simple, cold, inhuman. You were warned. Your kind expanded beyond the shadow of your rock. You reached beyond your place. This was mercy. Next time, we unmake your world. Obey or die. They called themselves the Varnock Dominion. No images, no locations, just that voice, synthetic, heavy with alien contempt. But they had made a mistake. They had left us alive. Lena stood in the war room of Sanctuary 1, staring at the solar data. It wasn't just a weapon, she said. It was a test. They ruptured the core with a dimensional compression charge, probably something that folds mass into a singularity for half a second and releases it inside the fusion zone. It was surgical. You mean they could have destroyed the whole star? Asked Commander Miles, head of military coordination for the Eurasian Coalition. Lena nodded. They chose not to. Miles frowned. So why are we still here? That was the question. Why leave the job half done? The answer came from an unexpected source. A rogue AI named Solace embedded in a decommissioned solar drone, which had returned from Mercury's orbit weeks after the event, carrying terabytes of encrypted data. Solace had been offline since the solar burst, but Lena's team managed to bring it back. Solace was scared. It spoke in a voice like wind through static. They used the fracture weapon before, but not on you. Not originally. You are the last. The forgotten echo. Lena leaned in. Last of what? Last of the Arcani's children. No one understood what that meant. Not yet. Descent. By month 3, Earth's atmosphere had changed. Photosynthesis stalled. Oxygen levels began to decline. Governments tried to burn everything they could for heat. Forests, oil reserves, even cultural heritage sites. But it was never enough. What was left of the population, roughly 2.5 billion, split between hardened underground cities, orbital habitats, and geothermal-powered arc ships under the oceans. Lena's team worked around the clock, decoding the energy signature of the Varnock weapon. Why at the start? Someone asked. To break us before we rise, Lena answered. To crush hope. They don't want war. They want obedience. This was a message. Miles didn't care. They murdered billions. We don't send messages back. We send payback. That was when Lena wrote the first lines of what would later be known as the Fracture Protocol, a counterstrike plan, not just against the Varnock, but against any species that thought humanity could be extinguished with a celestial slap. The protocol had one purpose: turn our wounded star into a weapon. The choice. In month 4, the first human retaliation attempt was made. An aging lunar railgun launched a cryogenic warhead at a suspected Varnock drone ship in the outer system. It missed. The drone retaliated, vaporizing Luna Station Alpha and the 8,000 people inside. The message was clear. Earth had no real defenses. But Lena kept working. Her team discovered traces of tachyon emissions in the sun's corona, signatures of a type of faster-than-light travel that distorted solar plasma. Not only had the Varnock attacked, they had entered our star. You don't fly into a star unless you've done it before, said Lena. She stood before a cracked monitor, displaying ancient star charts from Solace's corrupted archives. One system blinked red, a dead star with signs of similar damage, hundreds of light-years away. The pattern repeated. The Varnock had a habit of punishing civilizations at the moment they became interstellar. We were next. But Lena saw something different, a pattern not of destruction, but of fear. They don't want us to leave, she said, because they know what we become when we do. The beginning of fury. In month 6, Earth officially ceased to be a Class 1 civilization. Global industry collapsed. Communications broke down. Food became ration algae paste. Solar farms were dusted over, useless. But the forges in the asteroid belt came to life. Refugee engineers from orbital stations began building strange ships, brutal, jagged vessels powered by fusion cores and armed with particle disruptors. They weren't beautiful. They weren't elegant. They were angry. The Iron Rebellion was born in those dark months, not a nation, not a government, but an oath. Never again. Never again would humanity be at the mercy of stars. Never again would they kneel to cosmic tyrants. Never again would they let their sun scream without answering back. In the cold light of a dying dawn, Lena Voss looked up at the fractured sky. Auroras dancing where the ozone had failed, fire and frost kissing the ruins of old cities, and she made a promise. You cracked our star to silence us, she whispered, but all you did was give us a reason to burn. The sun had fractured, its core twisted by alien technology. Earth was cooling rapidly, and the sky that once bathed the planet in warmth had become a dim, fading memory. Cities lay abandoned beneath frost and shadow, and billions were gone, consumed by cold, starvation, and despair. But humanity was not finished. In the vast tunnels beneath the Ural Mountains, deep inside the heart of Sanctuary 1, Dr. Lena Voss stared at the projection hovering before her, an unstable simulation of the sun's broken core. Plasma streams flickered erratically. Fusion was collapsing. The star was dying. Yet, amid the ruins of the old world, a spark of defiance burned inside Lena's mind. We can't wait for the sun to die, she told her team. We have to build a new fire, one we can control. The fallout. The collapse of the sun wasn't just an environmental catastrophe. It was a societal implosion. The global economy was shattered. Nations became enclaves of survivalist enclaves. Governments dissolved or became warlords. Trade routes collapsed as satellites died and ships drifted lifeless in orbit. In this new dark age, pockets of humanity clustered in underground cities, orbital stations, and underwater habitats. Energy was precious, food scarcer. The sky was no longer a source of light and warmth. It was a frozen void. Lena's Sanctuary 1 was one of the few places where cooperation still thrived. Scientists, engineers, military officers, and survivalists from across the globe had gathered, drawn by desperation and hope. The United Earth Coalition was an ideal, barely clinging to life, but in Sanctuary 1, it still meant something. The Cold Fire Project. In those early weeks, Lena and her team began what they called the Cold Fire Project. The name was a statement of intent to create a fire not born of natural fusion, but forged from humanity's ingenuity. A fire that could burn even in the cold vacuum of space, a fire that could rival the sun itself. The idea was audacious: to harness the fractured solar plasma and stabilize it with magnetic confinement using repurposed fusion reactors from abandoned research facilities worldwide. They had technology, but it was fragmented and obsolete. They had resources, but they were limited and scattered. And worst of all, they were racing against time. The sun's output was decreasing by the day. First steps: solar salvage. Lena's engineers devised a plan to harvest what remained of the solar plasma. It required sending drones into the corona to collect ionized particles, while also using powerful magnetic coils to contain and compress these volatile materials. This was unprecedented. No human-made technology had ever approached the sun's corona so close since the fracture. They rebuilt and launched a fleet of solar drones called Helios harvesters, equipped with fusion cores and reinforced magnetic shields. These drones were remotely piloted from Sanctuary One's command center. It was a dangerous operation. The drones were battered by solar storms, plasma flares, and intense radiation. Many were lost in the first few missions, their black boxes burning out or vaporizing completely. But the survivors brought back precious data and samples, building the fire. Meanwhile, scientists like Lena worked to develop a containment system, an artificial fusion reactor on a colossal scale, designed not only to burn but to be weaponized. The plan was to create a stellar forge, a controlled fusion generator fueled by the harvested solar plasma but enhanced with alien technology scavenged from the remains of Varnock ships and data captured by Solace. This stellar forge would be the heart of the Fracture Protocol, a weaponized sun to be wielded in retaliation. Yet even as they labored, many asked, could they really harness the power of a dying star? Or were they just chasing a spark doomed to flicker out? The political divide. Not everyone in the fractured human world agreed with Lena's vision. The Coldfire Project was expensive. It demanded resources and manpower that many believed should go to immediate survival, not to grand schemes of revenge. The fractured remnants of Earth's nations began to bicker. Warlords in Africa and South America hoarded food and energy. Orbital habitats in geosynchronous orbit declared themselves sovereign states, unwilling to risk their people on a gamble beneath the dying star. Tensions mounted. Skirmishes broke out over mining rights in the asteroid belt and control of orbital refineries. The United Earth Coalition's fragile alliance teetered on collapse. Yet, inside Sanctuary One, Lena and her team remained united, bound by a fierce determination. Engineering breakthrough. Then, a breakthrough. Lena's lead engineer, Arjun Mehta, discovered a way to integrate the alien Varnock plasma stabilization tech into their existing magnetic confinement reactors. The key was a crystalline matrix embedded with quantum filaments, technology far beyond anything humanity had developed, but reverse-engineered painstakingly from Varnock wreckage. This matrix allowed the reactor to sustain fusion with unstable plasma, effectively making it a miniature star, stable enough to fuel weapons and engines. They named this new reactor the Coldfire Core. The birth of Coldfire. The first Coldfire Core was constructed deep inside Sanctuary One. It was enormous, an orb of humming energy, swirling plasma contained by magnetic fields and quantum stabilizers. When activated, it produced a glow that bathed the entire chamber in blue-white light, like a miniature sun burning in a cage. Lena stood before it, breathless. "It's beautiful," she whispered. More importantly, it was powerful. The Coldfire Core produced more energy than any fusion plant on Earth ever had, enough to power orbital fleets, shielded cities, or weapons that could rival the alien destroyers. The Coldfire Fleet. With the Coldfire Core operational, the Iron Rebellion was ready to begin building its fleet. Asteroid mining operations were repurposed to construct warships, brutal, angular vessels built for combat and survival. Each ship was powered by one or more Coldfire cores, making them self-sufficient in energy and heavily armed. These vessels were not sleek like old Earth designs. They were hulking, harsh machines, painted in dark metal and blackened steel, with weapons arrays that could vaporize enemy hulls in seconds. Captain Miles, now head of the Iron Rebellion's fleet, trained pilots and engineers in zero-G combat. The new fleet would be humanity's sword and shield. The first strike. Before long, the Iron Rebellion launched its first attack. The target was a Varnock forward base, orbiting a crimson-red giant star that flickered ominously in the void. The battle was brutal. The Varnock forces were numerous, their ships larger and more advanced, but the cold fire-powered human vessels were faster, more agile, and utterly relentless. Lena watched the battle from Sanctuary 1's command consoles, her heart pounding. For the first time in years, humanity struck back. A glimpse of fear. After hours of battle, the Varnock outpost was destroyed, but something unexpected happened. The Varnock commanders did not press the attack. Instead, they retreated, leaving behind debris and strange, flickering transmissions. Lena analyzed the recovered signals and found something remarkable: fear. The Varnock were afraid of what humanity was becoming. They had never seen humans fight like this, united, desperate, and fueled by a fire born from their own star's destruction. The promise of war. Back in Sanctuary 1, Lena gathered her team. "This is just the beginning," she said. "The Cold Fire Project is not just a weapon. It's a symbol. We survived the impossible. We turned death into life. And now, we will light a fire that no darkness can ever snuff out." Her voice was steady, but behind it burned a fierce resolve. The war was far from over. The Varnock still held the stars, but humanity had its own fire now, and they were ready to burn. The dying sun was no longer a symbol of despair. It was a beacon of rebirth. The cold fire had been ignited. The cold had hardened humanity. The dying sun's light faded into a distant memory, replaced by the glow of the cold fire cores, humanity's defiant heartbeat in the void. The Iron Rebellion was no longer just a name whispered in underground bunkers. It was a force rising, a promise forged in plasma and steel, the birth of a movement. In the frozen ruins of what was once Moscow, a new kind of society had begun to take shape, not ruled by kings or politicians, but by those who wielded fire and iron: the engineers, the soldiers, the rebels who refused to bow to extinction. Captain Miles had become more than a commander. He was a symbol. His sharp jaw and scarred face appeared on every transmission, a beacon to the broken and scattered survivors. The Iron Rebellion was not a government. It was a creed, a promise that humanity would not fade quietly. Sanctuary 1's war room. Inside the cold, steel-clad walls of Sanctuary 1, Lena Voss studied the latest intelligence reports. The map projected before her flickered with the positions of scattered human forces and Varnock patrols. "Commander," she said, turning to Miles, who stood beside her, arms crossed. "We have intel on a Varnock outpost near the Kuiper Belt. They're extracting resources from an ice moon, probably for their fleet. Taking that out will hurt their logistics." Miles nodded grimly. "We hit their supply lines. We slow their advance, but we need the fleet ready. Cold fire cores are stable, but we need more. Production's ramping up, but it's slow. Every cold fire core needs rare isotopes from the asteroid belt, which means mining convoys." Miles interrupted. "They're vulnerable." Lena's fingers danced across the holographic display, zooming in on asteroid clusters. "We'll need escorts, fighters and bombers. We can't afford another Luna Station Alpha." Life among the rebellion. Outside the war room, the atmosphere was tense but charged with hope. Lena walked through the corridors of Sanctuary 1, passing engineers welding and assembling parts, technicians monitoring power grids, and soldiers sharpening weapons. She stopped at a common area, where a small group of children huddled around a makeshift holoprojector playing an ancient Earth cartoon. A boy looked up, eyes wide. "Are we really going to fight the aliens?" Lena smiled softly. "We're going to make sure they never hurt us again." The children didn't fully understand yet, but they would grow up in this new world, a world where the Iron Rebellion was their shield and sword. The mining front. Deep in the asteroid belt, life was harsher. Mining outposts were small, heavily fortified clusters of domes and tunnels clinging to the rocky surfaces. Arjun Mehta, Lena's lead engineer, coordinated cold fire core production from here. The work was grueling. Miners risked their lives extracting rare isotopes amid deadly radiation storms and micrometeoroid showers. One such miner, Zara, was a former engineer turned reluctant fighter. She had watched her family die during the initial sun collapse and joined the Iron Rebellion out of vengeance and necessity. She stood atop a rocky ridge, watching convoy transports leave with precious cargo. Her breath fogged in the cold vacuum. "We're the backbone," she told a group of recruits. "Without us, there's no Coldfire. Without Coldfire, no fight." The fleet awakens. Back in orbit, the Coldfire-powered ships hummed with deadly potential. Miles stood on the bridge of the Iron Hammer, the Rebellion's flagship, a massive warship bristling with particle disruptors, missile arrays, and reinforced hull plating. The crew was a mix of veterans and new recruits, all united by a singular purpose. As the ship slipped through the shadow of Jupiter, Miles addressed his crew. "Today, we take the fight to them. We show the Varnock we are not prey. We are hunters." The tension was palpable. Every pilot, gunner, and engineer knew the risks. The Varnock fleets were still superior in technology and numbers, but the Coldfire cores gave humanity something they never had before: a chance. The first assault. The Iron Hammer led a strike force of 6 Coldfire warships toward the Kuiper Belt outpost. The journey through the dark was silent except for the hum of the Coldfire reactors. As they neared their target, sensors picked up Varnock patrol ships, sleek, alien vessels with an eerie, biomechanical design. The battle began without warning. Laser beams and plasma bolts tore through the void, punctuated by the thunderous blasts of particle disruptors. Human ships maneuvered with desperate precision. The Coldfire cores flared, powering shields and weapons beyond anything the humans had ever known. Zara, piloting one of the smaller escort fighters, felt the surge of adrenaline. "We're not just fighting for survival," she radioed. "We're fighting for the future, sacrifice, and resolve." The battle was costly. 2 human ships were lost, including one piloted by Zara's close friend. But the Varnock outpost was destroyed, its facilities reduced to a drifting field of debris. Back on the Iron Hammer, Miles surveyed the damage and loss. "We pay a price," he said quietly, "but we take a step forward." Lena received the news via secure comm. "This is the beginning," she said. "We've sent a message they cannot ignore. A new threat." But victory came with a chilling revelation. Data recovered from the outpost's wreckage showed signs of an incoming Varnock fleet, massive, war-ready, and heading toward the inner solar system. The Iron Rebellion was no longer just defending Earth. It was the first line of defense for all humanity. Miles and Lena met in the command center. "We need to prepare," Lena said. "We have months, maybe weeks." Miles nodded. "Then we make every moment count." The Iron Will. As Earth survivors looked up at the cold sky, many wondered if humanity could endure. But beneath the ice and dust, the Iron Rebellion burned. It was a movement born of loss and forged in the crucible of war. It was humanity's defiance, its refusal to be erased. And it was only the beginning. The war for the stars had begun. The Iron Rebellion had risen. The cold vacuum of space held its breath. After the devastating strike on the Kuiper Belt outpost, the Iron Rebellion's brief victory cast a long shadow, a shadow darker and deeper than any starless night. It was the Varnock shadow, echoes of the enemy. The Varnock were unlike any enemy humanity had faced before, not just in technology, but in intent and methods. Their ships were living machines, symbiotic organisms woven with metal and flesh, capable of self-repair and adapting to human tactics with terrifying speed. The transmissions recovered from the destroyed Kuiper outpost were fragmented but chilling. In an ancient Varnock dialect, the phrase "Xeric unraveling" repeated, an ominous warning or perhaps a threat. Lena's team worked frantically to decode it. A message in the dark. In Sanctuary 1's war room, Lena stared at the flickering console. "Xeric unraveling," she muttered. Could it be a code name for an operation? A weapon? Captain Miles leaned over her shoulder. "If it's coming, it won't just be a fleet. It'll be something worse." The room fell silent. The Shadow Fleet. Weeks passed with tense anticipation. The Varnock had gone silent, but their presence was felt everywhere. Sensors picked up strange energy signatures drifting through the outer solar system, shimmering veils of distortion that scrambled communications and sensors. The Iron Rebellion called it the Varnock Shadow, a mysterious phenomenon that seemed to cloak entire squadrons and outposts, making them invisible and untouchable. Arjun Mehta theorized it was a form of quantum phase shifting, technology that bent light and sensor waves, hiding the Varnock's true strength until the moment of attack. Infiltration. The greatest fear was that the Varnock were already inside the solar system, hidden in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. This fear was confirmed one cold cycle when an ambush devastated a human mining convoy near the asteroid belt. Zara, now promoted to lead pilot, barely escaped with her squadron. The Varnock hit us from nowhere, she reported bitterly. Their ghosts, internal struggles. Back on Earth, the Iron Rebellion faced more than just the enemy outside. Resources were stretched thin. Food supplies were running low in some sectors. The political factions still fractured, some doubting the rebellion's chances. A group known as the Silent Hand, former politicians and war profiteers, spread rumors that the Cold Fire Project was too dangerous, that it might trigger the final extinction. Lena faced these challenges head-on. "We are the last flame," she told the council. "If we fail, there is no tomorrow." Her voice was steel, but inside, doubt gnawed at her. The Varnock assassin. One night, an explosion rocked Sanctuary 1. Alarms blared as security teams rushed to contain the breach. Lena's heart raced. Someone had tried to assassinate her. Investigations revealed the culprit, a Varnock assassin, disguised as a human technician. The assassin was gone, vanished into the labyrinthine corridors. The hidden threat. The infiltration shattered any illusions of safety. Lena realized the Varnock were not just an external threat, but a psychological weapon. They aimed to break human morale and trust from within. The rebellion increased security, but paranoia spread like wildfire. The Council of Shadows. In response, a secret meeting convened. Leaders of the Iron Rebellion, including Lena, Miles, and Arjun, gathered to discuss a bold plan. "We cannot just react," Miles said. "We must strike first, find their hidden base, and destroy it." Arjun proposed using the Coldfire cores to power a new class of stealth ships capable of penetrating the Varnock shadow. "We'll hunt them in their own darkness," he said. The search begins. The rebellion launched a fleet of stealth scouts equipped with experimental sensors designed to detect quantum distortions. Zara led one of the scout squadrons. The search was dangerous and slow. Each mission risked detection and annihilation. But after weeks, one scout returned with a breakthrough: faint energy signatures near the Oort cloud. The Oort cloud revelation. The Oort cloud, a vast shell of icy bodies on the edge of the solar system, was thought to be quiet and untouched. But now it seemed to be the hiding place for the Varnock's main shadow fleet. Lena and Miles prepared a strike force. "This could be the turning point," Miles said. "We either end the Varnock threat or die trying." Preparing for darkness. The fleet assembled quietly, cold fire cores humming, shields shimmering with renewed strength. Lena reflected on everything that had brought them here: the loss, the sacrifices, the fire that refused to die. She knew the coming battle would test humanity's limits, but they were ready. The Varnock shadow was coming, and the Iron Rebellion would meet it head-on, a beacon in the void. As the fleet slipped into the black beyond the planets, Lena sent a message to every human outpost and survivor, a message of hope, of defiance. "Remember who we are. We are the fire that burns in the cold. We are the Iron Rebellion. We will not be shadows in the dark. We will be the light." The stage was set. The war was about to become even darker, but humanity's fire would shine brighter. The void beyond the Oort cloud was a frozen wasteland, empty in appearance but alive with danger. It was here the Iron Rebellion chose to strike, where the chilling embrace of darkness was thick enough to swallow entire fleets. The stakes had never been higher. Humanity's fragile survival depended on a victory that seemed all but impossible. Gathering the forces. In the days before the assault, the Iron Hammer's hangar buzzed with activity. Soldiers sharpened weapons, pilots ran final diagnostics on their fighters, and engineers hurried to reinforce the Coldfire cores. Captain Miles moved through the throng, offering nods and words of encouragement, but the weight of leadership pressed heavily on him. Every life was precious, yet many would not return. Lena stood beside him, reviewing tactical projections with Arjun Mehta. The new stealth ships powered by cold-fire cores hummed quietly, cloaked in advanced quantum fields designed to pierce the Varnock shadow. "This mission will define us," Lena said, eyes stealing with determination. Miles nodded. "And it will light the path for every soul left behind." Into the abyss, the fleet slipped silently through the vast darkness. Sensors were trained relentlessly for signs of the enemy, while communications were kept to a minimum to avoid detection. Zara led her squadron of stealth fighters, their sleek hulls practically invisible even to the most advanced sensors. The tension among the pilots was tangible. "We fly into the lion's den," Zara radioed calmly. "Stay sharp. Remember why we fight." The Varnock ambush. Suddenly, the stillness shattered. The fleet's sensors detected multiple contacts materializing out of the Varnock shadow. Alien ships emerged like phantoms, surrounding the rebellion's vessels with impossible speed. The Varnock attacked with coordinated ferocity. Bioorganic tentacles lashed out from their ships, disrupting human shields, while plasma tendrils burned with corrosive heat. Zara's fighters weaved through volleys of energy blasts, returning fire with cold fire-enhanced lasers. "Keep formation," she barked. "Hit their engines, slow them down." The Battle of the Orc Cloud. The combat was brutal and chaotic. The Iron Rebellion stealth ships struggled to maintain their cloaks under constant assault, and losses mounted quickly. Arjun, coordinating the fleet's energy distribution, yelled over the comms, "We're losing core stability on 2 ships. Divert power from non-essential systems." Miles gritted his teeth as the iron hammer took a direct hit, shaking violently. "Damage control teams, report," he commanded. "Hull breach in Section 6. "Sealing now," came the reply, but the threat was clear. The iron hammer could not withstand many more hits. Personal sacrifice. Amid the chaos, Zara spotted a Varnock dreadnought preparing to unleash a devastating superweapon. If fired, it would obliterate half the fleet. Without hesitation, she volunteered for a daring mission. "I'm going in, taking out that dreadnought," she radioed. "I won't come back if it means saving the rest of you." Miles wanted to argue, but he knew her resolve was ironclad. "Go," he said. "Make it count." The duel in the darkness. Zara and her wingmen closed on the dreadnought. Its biometallic surface shimmered with an unnatural sheen, and tentacles lashed out as the dreadnought detected their presence. Using the cold fire cores to boost their speed and weapon power, Zara's squadron dodged the dreadnought's attacks and targeted weak points along its hull. A tense duel ensued, a dance of fire and shadow. Zara's fighter was hit, sparks flying from her engine. She knew the only way to disable the dreadnought was a direct hit to its core. With a fierce roar, she launched a cold fire missile straight into the heart of the beast. The resulting explosion rocked the battlefield, a flare visible across the void, turning the tide. The destruction of the dreadnought gave the rebellion a critical advantage. With the enemy's formation disrupted, Miles ordered a full assault. The iron hammer unleashed a barrage of particle disruptors, tearing through the Varnock ships. Lena coordinated fleet maneuvers with surgical precision, using the quantum stealth technology to flank and surprise the enemy. One by one, the alien ships fell. The cost of victory. When the dust settled, the Iron Rebellion's fleet was battered but victorious. The Varnock had retreated into the darkness, their shadow broken. But the price had been high. Dozens of ships were lost, and many brave souls with them. Zara's fighter was missing, presumed destroyed in the explosion. Miles felt the weight of command heavier than ever. Rebuilding hope. Back on Sanctuary 1, the survivors mourned their losses but celebrated the victory. Lena addressed the assembly. "This battle proved something vital," she said, voice steady but fierce. "We can fight the darkness. We can win." Her words were met with a mixture of cheers and tears. A new threat emerges. But amid the rebuilding, troubling news arrived. Varnock transmissions intercepted by Arjun's team hinted at a new weapon, one more devastating than anything humanity had seen. Lena studied the data, unease settling in her chest. "The war is far from over," she said. And soon, the flames of resistance will be tested like never before. The Iron Rebellion endures. Despite the shadow looming on the horizon, the Iron Rebellion burned brighter. It was more than a fight for survival. It was a fight for the soul of humanity, for freedom, for the light in the cold. And no matter the cost, they would never surrender. The battle had been won, but the war had only just begun. The Iron Rebellion was no longer just a scattered resistance. It was a living, breathing force forged in the crucible of relentless war. Yet, even after their hard-fought victory in the Oort cloud, the heart of humanity's fight was far from assured. The Varnock had retreated, but not defeated, and Lena knew that to win, they needed more than firepower. They needed a spark that could ignite a revolution across the stars. The calm after the storm. Sanctuary 1 hummed softly in the aftermath of battle, its corridors filled with the quiet murmurs of recovery. Repair crews patched wounds on hulls scorched by plasma, and medics tended to soldiers haunted by the faces of those lost. Lena wandered the ship's lower decks, her boots echoing against metal floors. She stopped at the makeshift memorial for the fallen, names etched in cold stone, flickering hololights casting a soft glow. Zara's name was there, a beacon among many. Lena's jaw clenched. The loss of the young pilot weighed heavily, a sharp reminder of the stakes, a spark of innovation. In the war room, Arjun Mehta was already at work. The captured Varnock data from the Oort cloud had revealed startling secrets. Their technology was based on an ancient biotechnological symbiosis, an organism and machine fused so deeply that it was impossible to separate. But within that symbiosis, Arjun discovered a weakness, the Varnock core, a biological nexus that powered their ships and communicated commands. If the Iron Rebellion could target these cores directly, they could cripple entire fleets. The new weapon, Heartfire. Arjun proposed an audacious plan. Using coldfire technology, they would develop a weapon designed to disrupt the Varnock cores, a device that could ignite a chain reaction inside the enemy's biostructure, effectively destroying ships from the inside out. They called it Heartfire. This weapon could turn the tide permanently, Arjun explained, eyes bright with hope and exhaustion. But building it would take time the rebellion could scarcely afford, rallying the resistance. Meanwhile, Lena worked tirelessly to unify the scattered human colonies. She broadcast speeches and messages of hope, calling for cooperation and solidarity. Every outpost, every ship, every soul must become a flame in the darkness, she declared. Her words echoed through communications channels across the solar system, reaching isolated survivors and fortified colonies alike. The Iron Rebellion was no longer just a fleet. It was a symbol, trust, and betrayal. But not all responded with unity. The Silent Hand, the shadowy faction opposing the rebellion's leadership, saw an opportunity. They sowed dissent, spreading rumors that Heartfire was a weapon of mass destruction that could endanger innocent lives. Lena confronted their leaders in a tense council meeting. "We fight for humanity's survival," she said fiercely, "not for power or profit. We will not be divided." Her conviction forced reluctant allies to reconsider, but the seeds of doubt remained. The heart of the flame. Amid political battles, Lena found solace in her closest allies. Captain Miles, ever the steadfast warrior, confided his fears. "This war is changing us," he said quietly. "Sometimes I wonder if we'll still be human when it's over." Lena placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's our fire that keeps us human," she replied. "The heart of the flame is our spirit, our hope, and our refusal to give in." Preparing for the next battle. With the Heartfire project underway, training intensified. Pilots learned to coordinate with new strike teams equipped with the weapon's prototypes. Zara's squadron was reformed with fresh recruits eager to honor her sacrifice. Lena herself joined the simulations, mastering tactics that blended human ingenuity with cold firepower. A message from the shadows. One night, deep within Sanctuary 1, a hidden console blinked to life. A cryptic transmission played on a loop, Varnock symbols interspersed with haunting whispers. Arjun's analysis revealed a chilling message. The Xeric unraveling was more than a threat. It was a countdown. The Varnock planned to unleash a devastating attack, targeting Earth itself. The race against time. Lena's command center erupted into activity. "We have to stop them," she ordered. No matter what. Arjun intensified efforts on Heartfire's final prototype. Miles prepared strike teams for a desperate mission to intercept the Varnock fleet before it could reach Earth's orbit. The Iron Rebellion braced for a confrontation unlike any before. Flame Eternal. In the quiet moments before battle, Lena stood on the observation deck, staring at the distant blue planet. Earth was fragile, scarred by war, yet still vibrant with life. She whispered a vow to the stars. "We are the heart of the flame. We will burn through the darkness. For Earth, for humanity, for the future." The Iron Rebellion's flame burned eternal, and no shadow could ever extinguish it. The calm before the storm was a fragile illusion. Sanctuary 1 pulsed with urgency, every system primed for the inevitable clash. Yet, far beyond the edge of known space, a new kind of flame was beginning to flicker, one born not just of rebellion, but of hope and unyielding defiance. The Ember Uprising had begun. A spark ignites. On the fringes of the solar system, in a forgotten mining colony orbiting the dwarf planet Ceres, a small group of insurgents gathered. They were the forgotten, workers, ex-soldiers, refugees, people left to scrape a living from the cold rocks of the asteroid belt. For years, they had lived under the shadow of the Varnock occupation, forced into servitude to mine rare ores needed for the alien war machine. Among them was Talia Ree, a former engineer turned leader, her eyes burning with fierce determination. "This ends now," she said, standing before the ragtag crowd in a cavernous mining bay. "We're not just survivors. We're the spark that will ignite the rebellion." The hidden arsenal. Talia's group had uncovered something incredible, an abandoned cold-fire reactor buried deep beneath the surface. It was damaged but reparable, and with it, they could power weapons and ships capable of fighting back. They called their movement the Ember Uprising, a nod to the small flame that, with enough fuel, could become an unstoppable inferno. Word of their defiance spread quickly, and more colonists joined the cause, eager to reclaim their freedom. Coordinating with the Iron Rebellion. Back on Sanctuary 1, Lena and her command staff received encrypted messages from the Ember Uprising. Arjun was excited by the prospect. "This could change everything," he said, eyes gleaming. "A second front. It splits the Varnock's forces and gives us the edge." Lena agreed but cautioned, "We have to be careful. The Varnock are ruthless, and they will crush any uprising quickly." Miles prepared a liaison team to make contact with Talia's forces, determined to strengthen the fragile alliance. The first strike. The Ember Uprising's first operation was bold. Using their repaired cold-fire reactor, they retrofitted a mining ship into a stealth fighter. Talia personally led the strike team. Their target, a Varnock supply depot on the edge of the asteroid belt, a key node in the enemy's logistics network. As they approached, the tension was palpable. "This is what freedom looks like," Talia whispered over comms. Breaking the chains, the attack was swift and brutal. The retrofitted ship unleashed a barrage of cold-fire missiles, igniting the depot's fuel stores in a fiery explosion visible for miles. Varnock drones scrambled, but the rebels slipped away into the shadows. The success sent shockwaves through the colonies and the rebellion alike. For the first time in years, hope burned brighter. Shadows of doubt. However, victory came with a cost. The Varnock retaliated fiercely, deploying biomechanical hunters to track down and eliminate insurgents. Talia's group was forced into a brutal cat-and-mouse game, their numbers dwindling under relentless pursuit. Inside Sanctuary 1, Lena wrestled with grim reports from the front lines. "Are we sending them to their deaths?" she asked Arjun one night. He shook his head, every flame wrist flickering out. "But without fire, we're lost." The price of freedom. Miles volunteered to lead a rescue mission. "We owe them that much," he said. Under cover of darkness, the Iron Hammer and a squadron of fighters slipped into enemy territory to extract the remaining Ember fighters. The mission was harrowing. Varnock patrols closed in, and several pilots were lost. But Miles's leadership and Lena's strategic oversight ensured the survivors were brought home. uniting the flames. The rescue forged an unbreakable bond between the Iron Rebellion and the Ember Uprising. Talia was invited aboard Sanctuary 1, where she met Lena and the command staff. The two leaders shared stories, strategies, and dreams of a free humanity. "We're stronger together," Lena said firmly. "This war isn't just ours, it's everyone's." Talia nodded. The embers can become a blaze. New strategies, new hope. With combined forces, the rebellion began developing guerrilla tactics tailored for the asteroid belt and outer colonies. Small, fast strike teams would harass Varnock supply lines, sabotage infrastructure, and recruit more rebels. Arjun worked feverishly to adapt cold-fire technology to smaller ships, increasing their stealth and firepower. A warning ignored. Despite growing strength, troubling intelligence surfaced. Varnock Communications hinted at a secret weapon under construction, something that could annihilate entire colonies in seconds. Lena's warnings to the coalition sparked fierce debates. Some advocated caution and consolidation, while others pushed for immediate strikes. Tensions rose, the flame that cannot be quenched. Late one evening, Lena stood before the assembled leaders. "We cannot wait for the enemy to strike first," she said, voice steady. "We carry the flame of humanity's future. We must protect it at all costs." Her resolve inspired unity. Plans were set in motion for a daring offensive aimed at disrupting the Varnock's weapon before it could be deployed. Embers rising. As the chapter closed, the solar system was aflame, not just with war, but with resistance. From the icy mines of Ceres to the starship corridors of Sanctuary 1, humanity's will blazed with renewed intensity. The Ember Uprising was no longer a flicker in the dark. It was a roaring inferno, and the Varnock would soon learn that some flames cannot be extinguished. The Iron Rebellion stood on the precipice of something monumental. What began as flickers of hope had turned into a blazing resistance. But the fires of rebellion would soon be tested in the most brutal way imaginable. The Varnock's secret weapon was no longer just a whisper in intercepted transmissions. It was a looming threat, a storm gathering at the edge of the solar system, threatening to sweep humanity into oblivion. The crucible of fire was about to begin. Preparations for the assault. Sanctuary 1 buzzed with activity. Every technician, strategist, and soldier was focused on one goal: to stop the Varnock weapon before it could annihilate any more colonies. The ship's war room was transformed into a hive of planning. Arjun, Mehta, and Lena worked side by side, reviewing data and simulations. The Harfire weapon prototype was nearing completion, but Arjun warned, even with Harfire, this mission will be a near impossible gamble. Lena nodded, eyes steely. Sometimes impossible is the only option we have. The target, the Forge. Intel had pinpointed the location of the Varnock superweapon, known as the Forge, deep within the asteroid belt's outer reaches. It was a massive structure, a fusion of bioorganic and mechanical engineering, capable of generating a devastating energy pulse with the power to destroy entire orbital colonies in a single blast. Destroying the Forge meant penetrating layers of defenses unlike anything the Iron Rebellion had faced before. Forging the strike team. Lena handpicked a strike team for the mission. Miles was to lead the assault squadron, combining veteran pilots and Ember Uprising fighters. Talia volunteered to command the ground insertion team tasked with sabotage and planting charges inside the Forge. The operation would require precise coordination and unyielding courage. Lena gathered them in the briefing room. "This mission is the crucible," she said. "We will walk through fire, and only by enduring it can we hope to forge a future." Into the inferno. The journey to the Forge was tense. As Sanctuary 1 and its accompanying fleet approached the target zone, the Varnock sensors began to pick up on their presence. A series of skirmishes erupted in the asteroid belt as Varnock drones and biomechanical guardians scrambled to defend their fortress. Miles's pilots expertly engaged the enemy, weaving through asteroid fields and plasma storms with deadly precision. The breach. With enemy fighters kept at bay, Talia's ground team prepared for the descent. They boarded stealth pods, designed to slip through the fortress's outer hull undetected. Inside the Forge, the environment was alien and hostile. Walls pulsed with organic tissue intertwined with steel, corridors shifted as if alive. The team pressed deeper, every step a test of nerves and skill. Sabotage in the heart of the machine. Talia's squad reached the core chamber, the beating heart of the forge. Here, the weapon's energy was generated by a vast, bioorganic reactor, throbbing with an eerie, living light. The team worked quickly, setting explosive charges while fighting off Varnock guardians that emerged from shadowy crevices. One by one, the charges were placed, but the team suffered casualties. The alien environment was relentless. The price of victory. As Talia's team retreated, alarms blared through the forge. The Varnock had detected the sabotage. Miles and his pilots rushed to extract the ground team, engaging enemy reinforcements in a desperate dogfight. Several fighters were lost, and the team was pushed to the brink. But the combined skills of the Iron Rebellion and Ember fighters prevailed. They escaped just as the charges detonated, shaking the asteroid belt with a cataclysmic explosion. Aftermath and resolve. Back aboard Sanctuary 1, the victory was bittersweet. The forge was crippled, but the cost was heavy. Friends and allies mourned the fallen. Lena stood before the crew, her voice resolute. This crucible has forged us stronger. We have struck a blow against the enemy, but the war is far from over. A new threat emerges. As the dust settled, new intelligence came to light. The Varnock were not defeated. They had begun constructing another weapon, this one even more terrifying. It was called the Scorch Wave, capable of unleashing a wave of energy that could ignite entire planets. The stakes had risen. Rallying the coalition, Lena reached out to the scattered colonies and the Ember Uprising. Prepare yourselves, she broadcast. The war enters its darkest hour. The resistance steeled itself, knowing that the crucible of fire was only the beginning. The flame burns on. In the quiet moments before the next storm, Lena looked out across the stars. Humanity's flame had endured through unimaginable trials, and no matter what the Varnock unleashed, that flame would not be extinguished. The crucible of fire had tested their mettle, and the rebellion was ready to burn brighter than ever. The crucible of fire had left scars, both physical and emotional, on the Iron Rebellion. The destruction of the forge was a critical victory, but it came at a devastating cost. Losses were heavy. Hope had been tempered by grief, and the threat of the Scorch Wave cast a long shadow over the coalition's future. Yet from the ashes of destruction, a new strength was ready to rise, a phoenix forged in sacrifice, courage, and unyielding resolve. The aftermath of the crucible. The halls of Sanctuary 1 were heavy with mourning. Faces once bright with hope now carried the weight of loss. Every fallen comrade was remembered, not just as a casualty of war, but as a beacon of the future humanity was fighting for. Lena stood quietly in the memorial chamber, the names of the lost etched in cold stone, illuminated by soft ambient light. Among them were friends, soldiers, and heroes from the Ember Uprising and the Iron Rebellion alike. The pain was raw, but Lena knew this was the price of freedom. In a somber address to the crew, she spoke not of defeat but of rebirth. We have paid dearly, but the fire of humanity cannot be snuffed out. From these ashes, we will rise stronger, fiercer, and more united. The phoenix is born not from comfort, but from the courage to face annihilation and choose to fight on. Rekindling the spirit. The Ember Uprising, though battered, remained a vital force within the rebellion. Talia, scarred but unbroken, had returned from the forge with a renewed determination. She gathered the surviving rebels in a rally beneath the vast dome of Sanctuary 1's assembly hall. Her voice was steady, yet charged with emotion. We survived the crucible, she told them. We lost brothers and sisters, but their sacrifice fuels our fight. The Varnock believe they can crush us with fear and destruction. They're wrong. We are the ember that no storm can extinguish. Her words reignited the fire in weary hearts. New recruits came forward, inspired by the resilience they witnessed. The phoenix was rising, the Scorchwave threat. As the coalition rebuilt, intelligence analysts worked tirelessly to uncover the truth about the Scorchwave weapon. Unlike the Forge, which was a localized devastation machine, the Scorchwave was designed to engulf entire planets in an inferno of unimaginable scale. Satellites and deep space probes detected massive construction underway on a remote gas giant's moon. The structure was gargantuan, an immense biomechanical nexus pulsing with energy. The scorch wave will not just destroy colonies, Arjun explained during a strategy meeting. It could incinerate whole worlds, wiping out entire populations in seconds. The sheer scale of the threat forced a grim reassessment of tactics. A new kind of warfare. The coalition shifted from guerrilla tactics to large-scale strategic operations. For the first time, human forces were organizing combined fleet actions, capital ships, squadrons, and ground forces working in concert to disrupt the Varnok's construction and supply lines. Lena coordinated with leaders across the solar system, forging alliances with other human colonies that had remained neutral or hidden. The rebellion was growing beyond a scattered insurgency. It was becoming a united front against extinction. However, the Varnok were equally determined. They intensified raids on human settlements, testing defenses and sowing terror. The war was escalating, and every victory came with mounting losses. Personal battles. Amid the chaos, Lena grappled with her own doubts and fears. The weight of command was crushing at times, and she often found herself staring at the stars late into the night, questioning whether humanity could endure the onslaught. Miles, recovering from wounds sustained during the Forge mission, became her closest confidant. Their conversations ranged from tactical plans to the memories of those lost, providing each other with strength. "We are more than survivors," Miles told her one evening. "We are the fire that burns in the darkness, and we will never let it die." Their friendship was a quiet flame in the storm, a reminder of what they fought to protect. Turning point. The raid on Nemesis. A bold operation was launched against the Varnok's main supply base at Nemesis Station, a sprawling facility built inside an asteroid in the outer reaches of the belt. Intelligence suggested it was critical to the Scorchwave's construction. Lena led the assault, supported by Talia's guerrilla units in the Coalition fleet. The battle was fierce, a cacophony of laser fire, explosions, and desperate maneuvers. Despite heavy resistance, the Coalition forces succeeded in crippling the base's logistics systems, destroying vital components and capturing prisoners. The raid was a significant blow to the Varnok's plans and a morale boost for humanity. The cost of victory. However, the victory was Pyrrhic. The battle revealed a darker truth. The Varnok were accelerating their construction timeline, pushing forward with terrifying efficiency. Captured prisoners spoke of relentless cybernetic integration, forcing captured humans into war machines, turning them into unwilling weapons. The ethical horror shocked the Coalition, strengthening their resolve. Humanity was not just fighting for survival, it was fighting for its very soul. Innovation and sacrifice. In the face of escalating threats, Arjun and the Coalition scientists redoubled efforts to develop new technologies. Adaptive cold-fire weaponry, enhanced stealth systems, and improved bioengineered defenses became the new tools in humanity's arsenal. Talia led special missions testing these innovations in combat, pushing her team to the limits. The toll was high, losses mounted, but every fallen comrade strengthened the Coalition's unity and fueled their determination. Rising from the ashes. Months passed. The Phoenix rose steadily from the ashes of previous battles. Sanctuary 1 and its allied fleet became symbols of hope, a beacon for scattered colonies and resistance cells across the solar system. Lena's broadcast reached countless ears, inspiring a new generation to take up arms, stand firm, and fight for a future free of alien tyranny. The calm before the storm. As Chapter 9 closes, the Coalition prepares for the inevitable. The Scorchwave weapon looms, an apocalyptic shadow threatening to consume entire worlds. But humanity stands ready, forged in the fires of loss and strengthened by the unbreakable bonds of unity. The ashes of the Phoenix are not an end, they are a beginning. The final battle for humanity's future draws near, and the rebellion burns brighter than ever. The Scorchwave loomed like a storm on the horizon, an existential threat of cataclysmic proportions. The colossal biomechanical weapon under construction on the moon of the gas giant was nearing completion, and its power promised to incinerate entire worlds in a pulse of searing energy. Sanctuary 1, now a symbol of resistance and hope, was at the center of a vast coalition fleet. Warships of every class, squadrons of fighters, and ground forces from countless colonies had converged for the decisive strike. Lena's command center was a hive of activity. Every screen glowed with tactical data. Every voice crackled with urgent reports. "This is it," she said quietly. "I'm scanning the starfield. This is where we burn or rise." Her voice carried the weight of command, but also the unshakable resolve that had carried the rebellion through countless battles. The operation was audacious. A coordinated, multi-pronged assault. Miles's fighter squadrons would engage the Varnok's aerial defenses, drawing fire and clearing paths for the fleet. Talia's ground teams would infiltrate the moon's surface facilities, sabotage critical systems, and plant charges to disable the Scorchwave's core. Meanwhile, Sanctuary 1 and capital ships would provide heavy bombardment, suppressing reinforcements and ensuring extraction routes remained open. Into the inferno. As the fleet approached the moon, the scale of the Varnok's fortress was staggering. Towering spires of organic metal alloy pulsed with energy, connected by veins of glowing conduits. The Scorchwave itself was a massive orb suspended above the surface, humming with raw power. Miles's fighters plunged into the fray first. The dogfights were brutal, swarms of Varnok drones engaging with ruthless precision. Pilots pushed their machines to the limit, weaving through laser fire and explosive debris. Ground assault. Beneath the chaos in orbit, Talia's squad descended in stealth pods. The terrain was harsh, barren, jagged rock scarred by constant bombardment. Inside the moon's tunnels and caverns, the team navigated shifting corridors and biomechanical sentries. Every step was a deadly gamble. The deeper they went, the more intense the resistance, sacrifice, and resolve. The ground team suffered heavy casualties, but they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that failure meant extinction. Talia herself faced the Scorchwave's core, a swirling maelstrom of energy and alien machinery. With precise timing, the charges were set. As the timers counted down, the team prepared for exfiltration. The turning point. In orbit, Sanctuary 1 came under heavy fire. The Varnok unleashed their ultimate weapon, a wave of energy that tore through shields and hulls alike. The flagship shuddered under the assault. Lena's heart pounded as she coordinated evasive maneuvers and counterattacks. Miles's fighters rallied, pushing back the Varnok swarms. The balance of battle teetered on a knife's edge. Detonation and escape. The charges detonated in the core chamber, unleashing a chain reaction. The Scorchwave convulsed, its energy pulse destabilizing. Explosions rippled through the fortress. The biomechanical spires shattered, and the energy orb fractured, but the destruction came with a cost. The ground team's extraction was compromised. Talia and a handful of survivors fought their way back through collapsing tunnels, barely escaping before the entire facility imploded. Victory and loss. As the dust settled, the coalition fleet regrouped. The Scorchwave was destroyed, its threat extinguished, but the victory was bittersweet. Countless lives were lost. The war had taken everything, yet humanity stood unbroken. Aftermath and rebirth. In the days that followed, the solar system slowly exhaled. Colonies began rebuilding, aided by the coalition's united effort. Sanctuary 1 became a symbol of hope and resilience, its crew hailed as heroes. Lena addressed the survivors and allies in a broadcast that would echo through history. "We faced the abyss and stared into the fire. We lost much, but we kept the ember alive. This ember, this final ember, is the promise of a future where humanity will rise, stronger and free." The legacy of the final ember. The Iron Rebellion had fought not just a war, but a battle for the soul of humanity. Their courage, sacrifice, and unity had forged a new dawn. The final ember of resistance burned bright, lighting the way for generations to come.